everybody. Today on Taekwondo Today, we are joined by the legendary instructor and master, Richard Auciello. Hi, sir. How are you?
I'm very well. Hello, everybody.
Good. Awesome. So we just got a few questions, really. Want to get to know you and some of your experiences and things like that. So just wondered if you could tell us about your Taekwondo history, how you got started, when you got started.
Yeah, I was a boy when I started. In the early 80s. You might have seen it, the original Karate Kid when it came out, yeah. 1984. My parents divorced. I'll tell you how I got into it, really. My parents divorced when I was a boy, and like lots of boys, if they're not given certain directions, then they go down a different road. And I was a little soft, to tell you the truth. And I needed some sort of discipline. My mum was getting frustrated, and purely by chance, my babysitter at the time brought her boyfriend round, and he brought a dodgy copy of the Karate Kid round on VHS. So I put the video cassette in. We were watching this film, and I'm kicking my legs around like a nutter. Never seen it before, but watch the film, I can have a go. And that's really how it started. And her boyfriend at the time, and it's gone down the line, turned out to be my instructor, Mr. David Mears. He was world champion in 1984. He started off with the UKTA, then he went to the TAGB, was world champion with both UKTA and the TAGB. And it was that pure coincidence that I just met him that one night, kicking my legs around, and he said, "Why don't you come and see how it's done properly?" All these years later, and I'm still kicking my legs around like a nutter.
Awesome. With such a great career, and I suppose both as a competitor yourself and also an instructor, what would you say your biggest achievements are, both in Taekwondo and also as maybe a competitor as well?
Where do I start? I made my England debut as a 16-year-old. I was young to be in Aberdeen in '93. I finished school, and those of you, what year were you born, Ross?
1989.
Yeah, well, there you go. In '93, Moscow, there for the European Championships, and I made my England debut at that tournament. I was fortunate. I won a bronze medal. Lots of things that happened that week. Those of you that know politics, and anybody remember, It was called Black October in Russia. And on the 2nd of October, Yeltsin and Gorbachev had a spat and ended up with a civil conflict. And we were over there 10 days. We got over there, and then it started 2 days into the trip.
Oh, wow.
It's a memorable trip for lots of reasons. I was shot at twice that week.
Oh, my God.
The hotel was a nightmare. It was run by mafia, Russian mafia. The story itself, it's a long story. It was a trip that changed my life forever, and I just loved it. But that's one memorable trip. But that kick-started a chain of events with international tournaments, and I just got a bug. I loved it. It was one of those things. I also developed a love for vodka that week.
Oh, awesome. With that as well, because I remember we've been to a few countries together. So I've seen you in Holland, Poland, which have been great experiences. And I think one of the great things about these things is the kind of community and the outside of the dojang, outside of the competition venues that brings people together. So have you got any, if you can share with us, any funny memories or any moments that you can tell us about without getting too much trouble?
You already know. The most recent one that sticks out, obviously, we were in Poland. And it was a Sunday morning, and I'm driving a hire vehicle, and I've got Grandmaster in the car with me. I'm chauffeuring around. We're driving down these little country roads. Wasn't really paying attention. It was just a normal country road. And I saw, in fact, I didn't see, there was just this little sign on the side of the road. It looked like a silhouette of a town. Never took any notice. Drove through it. there was nothing there. It was just empty. It was just fields and this little farmyard on one side. The next thing I know, I'm being pulled over by two massive gorilla Polish policemen. One of them's pointed a gun at me to get out of the car. Okay. And I'm looking at Grandmaster, and Grandmaster's looking at me and said, "What did we do wrong?" I said, "I have no idea."
Yeah.
Anyway, the car door opens, and I literally get picked up like a rag doll and thrown towards the back of this car with the other policeman that's pointing a gun at me. And I'm like, I really don't know what I've done wrong. Is it mistaken identity? Got me in the back of the car, and it turns out that I went through, because I went past a farmyard, I went past some speed limit signs, and I was breaking the speed limit, but I didn't know that. And there was a problem with me. I don't speak Polish. They didn't speak English. There were lots of problems going on in this car. I got my ID out. I leant through the seats to give the ID, and then got smacked into the back of the seats again because I shouldn't have been leaning forwards. It was a catalogue of mistakes, and I ended up getting told off while I was in Poland. But because I couldn't speak English, and because they couldn't speak English and I couldn't speak Polish, after garbling basically a ticking off, they pushed me back out of the car and said, "Don't speed." And then they drove off and left me there. Grandmaster Oldham sat in the car wetting himself watching, and I'm thinking, what just happened? Haven't got a clue. But that was Polish police brutality, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose it's such an interesting place. I mean, because have you been there twice? Because I've been there. Yeah,
a couple of times now.
Yeah, and it's a great place, and that there's that really nice little town square with the nice little restaurant and things like that. But we were in one of the hotels there, and I don't know whether to describe it as the Shining Hotel or the American Horror Story, and it was just
exactly what you're talking about.
I think it was the best hotel there, and some of the guys they didn't have enough room in that hotel, so they put some of them into, the Matharu family, Mr. Matharu and his two sons. They put them into a hotel that was around the corner that hadn't been finished yet. So the two bedrooms were fine, and they had a kitchen, but nobody was there. There was no people there, and they just let them have it. And it was like a crazy film, but it was such a great experience for everybody. And I just remember it being so fun.
all trips abroad, they're all memorable for lots of different reasons. We had the same thing when we went to Holland. I got lost driving around in Holland, nearly missed the airport on the way back home. I had to leave before the rest of the squad, so I'm in a hire vehicle driving around. I got lost, and so I'm on the phone. My sat nav's packing up on me because I'm running out of battery life, and I just, a pure fluke, I pulled over and ended up finding a guy that was at university in Manchester, actually.
Oh, really?
Of all places, and he spoke English.
Yeah.
And he gave me directions, and I managed to get there with like 15 minutes to spare, so I was whisked through the airport. I've had loads of great, I went to Sardinia. Well, that was in the mid 90s, and had a great trip. Lovely island, beautiful place. Had a blessing from the cardinal of the island. Now, I come from an Italian background.
Yeah.
My father was with me, so we're talking the lingo and doing the bits and bobs. At the end of the trip, they said to us, "Oh, you've been looked after really well." So yeah, we really appreciate it. It's been great trip. They said, "Oh, we looked after you. Now you look after us." And they wanted us to bring this parcel back from Sicily, from Sardinia. They wanted to bring this little parcel back to the UK. Never told us what was in it. They just said, "You take that parcel back." And me and my dad were like, "What? We can't do this." And still to this day, we don't know what was in this parcel, but we took it to the airport and we handed it over at the airport and said, "Look," we explained what the problem was, and that was it. And I left it.
Oh my God.
There's been, you've got to remember, Taekwondo over the years, it comes from a really dodgy background. It's Korean military, and it was all, if you go into the history of Taekwondo and what was going around in the early days, it was all cloak and dagger stuff. And it did have a knock-on effect across all countries. And it was, Taekwondo has been abused for many years in different places. and mafia have had dealings with it and things like that. I'm pleased now that we don't see a lot of that. That's all gone.
Yeah, yeah.
But in the early days, it was abused. And if you read, there's a brilliant book written by Alex Gillis, The Killing Art.
Yes, yes, yeah.
I highly recommend students, if you ever get a chance to read this book, The Killing Art, and it gives you an insight into the early days of Taekwondo and how it was used and abused by lots of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've sort of stepped into the back end of it just as it was finishing. Thank goodness.
Yeah, yeah. That's an experience though that I suppose not many people have experienced.
It was a real experience, and yeah, I always put it down to Grandmaster Oldham. It's his fault.
Yeah, with all the places you've been to, what would you say is your favourite place you visited, with Taekwondo being the reason you visited there?
My favourite, the most memorable, my favourite place was Rimini in 2000. I won the world title in Rimini in 2000. Wow. Hyperweights. Story behind that trip. 8 weeks before, it was the first weekend in May was the World Championships. But 8 weeks before that was the British Championships. And I entered the tournament. I'd been training really hard, getting ready for the World Championships. And at the British Championships, I was in the finals, and I jumped up. I sprung through the balls of my feet, and as I jumped up to do a punch, I tore the cruciate ligament in my ankle.
Oh gosh!
And devastated. Obviously, I had to go to hospital. I ended up in a plaster cast. And they said, look, you're going to need physio, but this is as bad as a break. This is as bad as it ever gets. You're just going to have to rest it and we'll see how it goes. I said, well, how long am I in plaster for? And they said, we've got 6 weeks. It's as bad as a break. Okay. With physio, realistically, how long will it be before I'll be able to do anything? And they said, oh, it could be anything, 4-6 months maybe. I said, well, that's the World Championships out of the window.
Yeah.
Also, while I was in Rimini, I was supposed to be taking my international degree. So I was supposed to take my 4th degree at the event under Grandmaster Park Jung Tae at the time.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So I'd been training for that, and that was more important to me than the competition itself. 5 weeks from that event, and I went to the hospital early. I said, look, I feel really good. I've been exercising the rest of me, tried to stay in shape, bits and bobs. I put a little bit of weight on, which was a shame because I wanted to be in a certain weight group.
Yeah, yeah.
I said, can I get this plaster off? And he said, well, we'll have a look and we'll see. He said, it's amazing, you healed really well, but you're going to need physio. I'll put an appointment in for you. It'll be 3 weeks' time. I said, well, that'd be no good. I won't be in the country. I'm going to be in Rimini. Yeah. So I made a phone call, spoke to a friend of mine, and he was a physio. And we did some intense physio, hydrotherapy, I had all sorts of bits and bobs. But my concentration was purely to get fit again so I could take my grading. And I flew over to Italy. We took a team, 112 people we took to Rimini in 2000. Master Nichols, he wasn't Grandmaster then. Nichols was with us. He was of our organisation that went over. He was nothing to do with the group, but we took him over as part of the tournament, along with some other seniors and masters that were around at the time. And we did a seminar before the event, and I was supposed to grade after this seminar. I felt really good. The weather was warm, which always helps. And I took my grading. I had an absolutely amazing grading. I was buzzing. I graded in front of 2,500 people inside a sports arena in Rimini. Which it's bad enough taking a test, but when you've got that many people watching as well, there's added pressure. And I held it together. I did really well. I was doing jumping techniques that I never dreamt that I'd be able to get up there and do, but I did. And I was passed and promoted to 4th degree by Grandmaster Park Jung Tae, which is an honour in itself.
Absolutely.
And the rest of the team, the lads in the team said, look, because I was team captain at the time, although for this event I was going to give it a miss because I was just going to take my grading. And they said, you've just done an absolutely amazing grading. Why don't you join us in the team event? I said, well, I don't know how I'm going to cope. I'll have a go at the individuals, see how I feel after the individuals, and then we'll have a look at the team event. I said, okay. So I weighed in for the individual event, and the starting for hyperweight was 90 kilograms, and I weighed in at 90.5, which is just over 14 stone. And I should have been in the weight category below, and I'd struggled to make the weight anyway. So I was the lightest person in the weight group, and I moved a lot quicker than the rest of them. Simple as that. And I ended up winning it.
Amazing!
So,
wow.
I won that one, and my girlfriend, my wife now, she was with me. So was my father. There was a big celebration. The lads said, "Right, you've just won the World Championships. Obviously, you're doing the team event." I said, "Yes, okay, we'll do the team event." And then, so I was there with the rest of it. Mr. Holmes, Mr. Darren Holmes, Mr. Andy Holmes. You know, Mr. Darren Holmes, he was my number 2. So he was my vice captain. And that's how it went with that event. And after winning the World Championships, I walked off the square and I turned to my girlfriend and I said, I've done everything that I want to do now as an individual competitor. And I want to start a family.
Oh, wow.
18 months later, my wife, or my girlfriend, which she was my wife by then, we had a daughter. We called her Jessie. My second daughter, she was a boy when my wife was carrying, and we didn't have any girls' names. So we called her Rimini, because that was the place that I said I wanted to start a family. So yeah, Rimini's a special one for me.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I suppose so many things happened there that changed so many things as well, which is just like a perfect thing that you just, most people probably don't even have those experiences. So it's amazing that so much happened at Summing, and also it shows that without Taekwondo, that all of that would have been potentially a lot later or not a thing. Yeah.
I'd never have had it without Taekwondo. I would have had it, but the memories that have been created because of the love for a sport, simple as that, and the stories that go behind it, and the things that I've done, it shaped me as a person. I've grown up with martial arts, with Taekwondo in particular. It's not the only martial art I've ever done, but Taekwondo's always been my core. It's my base. So I was bullied as a boy as well. I was brought up. I still live in a very rural part of England, and back in the 70s, even then, 30 years after the war, and I'm still getting abuse from people because I was Italian. So as a child, I had quite a tough time, and I was beaten up and pushed around, and there's lots of things that today, very relevant for today. We talk about racism, but it's not just a colour. It's happened over years and years and years, and I was very lucky that I had this direction, and Taekwondo made me the person that I am, made me a stronger character to deal with things like this. I don't condone violence in any way. I'm very good at it, but I don't condone it. It has shaped me, and it's made me what I am. So I'm very grateful for having the opportunity to do that and to teach it to other people now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this will be really important as well. So many students come to university, whether they haven't done Taekwondo before, or majority, I think, never have done it at all. And I know you've done amazing work with the university. So you guys and the GTUK have got a few universities that have got great students there. And I expect quite a few of them are people that have never done Taekwondo before university. So once they join and then learn the art for the first time at the age of 18, which is really cool. But have you got any advice you would give to anyone who had never done Taekwondo on why they should maybe start at 18 or at uni or college? Or
not only the social aspects of Taekwondo, everybody enjoys this. it's an art for your body and the mind together, and there's very few arts that do that. And in Taekwondo now, it's very different now than what it used to be. It's very more relaxed. It's not the same as it was in the early 80s. There is more of a social element to it nowadays, but society has changed. That's fine. I think it's a real shame. I've seen so many university students start Taekwondo at university, they finish university, and then they disappear. And I feel that's a great shame.
Yeah.
It's a bit like getting a degree and then never using it again. All that time that you put into this degree, your first degree black belt, 3 years at university, you can get your black belt. And then I see people disappear, and it breaks my heart to see that. It strengthens the character, it strengthens the body, it strengthens the mind. You make lifetime friends, and for you guys at university, you have that connection with people all over the world. Sometimes, I've got friends now all over the world: America, Norway, Russia, all over Europe. Australia, Malaysia, Hong Kong. And it's all because of Taekwondo, and I find that crazy. But over the years, as a competitor, and now as a coach, the contact with these people are lifelong friendships. And you go on holiday, you can go abroad. If you're in the right place at the right time, you make a phone call, and you're soon catching up with an old friend, having a beer somewhere. And, do you want to go and do a bit of training? Well, actually, no. I'd sooner just go for a beer. Simple as that. But Taekwondo is my love. I love doing it, and to go abroad. I went to Mexico. Went training in Mexico.
Oh wow.
Where can you do that? It's great. I love it.
Yeah.
And it's something. I'm lucky. My wife and both my daughters. My eldest she's at university. She's down in Guildford. She's still trained. She's a second degree black belt. She can look after herself. I don't have that fear in myself that she can't. My youngest daughter, she's off to university. She wants to go to London. And again, I don't have a fear that she can't look after herself. As a father, it's great. But as an instructor for all my students that go away, if I've taught them life skills that will keep them safe, that's important. And you've got them skills. A lot of you now, a lot of students, you've been practicing. Keep them skills, use them for life, keep you moving forward. Yeah,
absolutely. I think as the amount of students I've encountered that they get involved for. I mean, I'm obviously in Manchester, as you know, and sadly there is I think a lot of people think sometimes that the city can be quite a difficult place to be. So it's people take it up for the self-defense aspect of it originally, just to get some more confidence, but also feel a bit better because they've moved to university by themselves. But then I think they fall in love with the art as well, which is the best thing as well, because they're doing it for a purpose that they think, this might really help me with this reason. But then they find hundreds of other reasons why they love it as well, which I think is really, really great. And I think it's different because I started at the age of 9 because I was bullied. So my mum just dragged me kicking and screaming to a class I'd never heard of before. We watched a video, and I'm sure you guys will probably be in this video. It just showed a load of old. It was everyone was really young, but it was a load of who are masters now. But there's so many people I recognise in it, jumping over cars, doing all this. It was kind of like a really cool video. And then we watched that, and then they said, right, do you want to do some of this? And we were like, I'm hooked forever. I was hooked for good. But it is great to see that even at different ages, you can still get so much from it. It isn't just something you have to do as a kid or as an adult or old. It seems to have such a wide aspect for everyone, really, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, the eldest student I've ever had, I had a lady, she was in her late 60s. She started with me. She'd got a dodgy hip, and we knew that, but it was an exercise just to keep her moving. she got to about blue belt, I think, and then she had to have a hip replacement. Nothing to do with Taekwondo, but she had to have this operation, and then she sadly had to stop. But you know, to have that contact, even as I was in my early 20s at the time when I taught her. Have that contact itself, skills and exercises to keep mobile for another days of her life. It's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that is one of the best parts of it.
I don't know how much of that you got. You know, I can still see you moving, Ross. You're all right. You got sound.
Yeah, you keep talking, sir. Don't worry about me. I can hear everything.
That's good. I think, you know, where do you want to see Taekwondo go in the future? I had a conversation with a fellow master not long ago. These world pioneer grandmasters, they're dying off slowly. There's an end of an era there. And what does the future hold for the rest of us moving forward? How can I educate people going into the future, and what direction do you see Taekwondo as a martial art going? Olympic Taekwondo has not been a great image for us to a point, and there's massive steps now to introduce both styles of Taekwondo together for an Olympic sport. That's something I'd love to see in my lifetime. I'd love to see both WT and ITF styles being represented on the Olympic stage. We've got, you know, international Taekwondo fighters that have crossed over into WT, but that's not just, they've had to change over. And what I'd like to see is an ITF dobok being worn in an Olympic tournament with patterns being shown. I think there's so much more. It's a great shame that the Olympics haven't taken place this year. I think the introduction of sport karate, when you see it on the world stage, will make a big difference in Taekwondo. I think it could create lots of other issues that go again. I don't know what the answer is with that. Other people's views on this, because I love the sport element of Taekwondo. I think it's great. It's got its place. I've had many years and a successful career with the sport, but I am a martial artist. I teach a martial art, not just a sport. And you know, there's lots of clubs now that just want to do the kickboxing and the sports side of it, and that's not just Taekwondo. It's got its place, the sports side, but it's not everything, and that's important to me moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is the interesting thing of, you know, especially with this sort of thing now. I think with the current stage we're in, with the lockdowns and things as well, that Taekwondo is being seen in so many different ways. I mean, I've seen so many online sessions that I probably never would have seen before from different people putting things out there. So it's created, I think, a bit more of a community, even more so, and hopefully that'll branch out even further within the different styles and variations, and hopefully do some good with it. But it's very interesting. I mean, it changes quite a lot, but then it still has a long way to go, which will be interesting to see how things do develop over the next, you know, decades and things like that. So yeah, I totally understand that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's been really great to talk to you, sir. So
thank you for having me.
No problem at all. Thank you for sharing some great stories as well. I think it's one of the great things here. It's kind of like we're putting it in a different light so that people see that community, that fun side of Taekwondo, as well as obviously the really serious and awesome martial art as well. So I really thank you for sharing some of your stories, and look forward to hopefully seeing you as soon as we can outside of the lockdown.
It's one of those things, you know. I am what I am. I've got the master's grade. I'm human. I've got 2 arms, I've got 2 legs, the same as everybody else.
Yeah.
Um, I just I love this interaction with other people, the students, and we can pass on knowledge and we pass on stories.
Yeah.
I have great fun. I know, I've been out, we've sat down, we've shared a drink or two before.
Absolutely.
It's all part of it for me.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of snobbery inside Taekwondo some days, and I don't see a place for it really. It's not the future. I don't think it's the right way. If you want to educate people, educate them the right way on a level, and we can move forward a lot easier. That's the way. So
yeah, absolutely, totally agree. And thank you very much, sir. It's been fantastic.
No problem.
Speak to you very soon.
Yeah, you take care.
You too, sir. Thank you.